Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hey everybody, and welcome back. It's your host, Joe Slepsky, and this is Joe on Joe, the G.I. Joe podcast where we go through every episode of the cartoon, every issue of the G.I. Joe comic book, page by page, panel by panel, episode by episode, in excruciating detail. And been doing it for over 6 years now. I think we're hitting, are we coming up on, I have figured that out. It's been a while though, and we've done a lot, and I'm really happy, and I'm happy to be back. I'm still a little tight from that Cobra Lavid that I caught earlier this month, me and I think everyone else. So I apologize if my throat's a little gone, and if I shorten it and or take a bunch of pauses for coughs like I'm going to do right now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got that long haul COVID cough thing going on. So that's a delight. You guys are a delight. I'll tell you that much. What did I see this week? Oh, I know what I saw this week that delighted me. The G.I. Joe Hasbro Fan First Friday thing. Now, I know I saw a bunch of grumpy people, it was some of the announcements. So if you guys didn't catch it, they announced, not that we do breaking news or anything. There's a lot of great G.I. Joe podcasts that cover this a lot more in depth, like our friends over at What's on Joe Mind and, podcasts from the pit and all that stuff. But, J. Joberg, and right now I'm insulting all the great G.I. Joe podcasts just by naming the three. But I did catch that Fan First Friday last Friday, and they talked about, they did a couple of reveals, but the biggest thing was due to the supply chain and the various issues with creating things, they didn't have any actual production figures to showcase. So they were only relying on photoshopped images and, fully rendered, really nice looking images, but this is what the product is going to look like, not necessarily this is the actual product in hand, which is what they've done for the last 2 years or however long they've been doing those videos, at least for G.I. Joe that I've been watching. So they usually have the product in hand and they show you it in action, and then they say pre-orders will be up at a certain time. So this week they didn't have that because their Hasbro's running into, these production delays. So what they showed us, what I saw was Tomax and Xamot, which are amazing. I'm glad they're doing them. I am still surprised that they're not doing them in a 2-pack. I don't know who would buy one and not the other. That seems crazy to me. But also that it seems like they're doing it the smart way, where the swappable parts are, they can reuse some of the bodies, or just, mold flip the bodies to use the same thing. Obviously they're twins, so that makes total sense. Then they made a bunch of announcements that I think were kind of the more quote unquote controversial ones, where the next real big wave of classifieds are going to be redos of existing characters, but in more Sunbow friendly or not even Sunbow, old school friendly themes, like old school 3 3/4 friendly color schemes. And I'm on that fence. Like I get it. There must be a lot of financial reasons that they're not doing fresh molds, because obviously we know all this stuff costs a lot of money. So I worry that this is a sign that overall they're saying, not a lot of new molds, just, repaints and, little quick fixes here and there. But also from a production perspective, if they're having troubles getting a lot of the new stuff in, but maybe they have some materials that they can reissue and repurpose and still get product on the shelves, I think that's a good thing. The idea is we want to keep getting fresh new product on the shelf. That's what everyone complains about. I go to Target, there's nothing on the shelf. I go to Walmart, there's nothing on the shelf. If this is a way to help circumvent that, I'm all for it. By far, I think that Gung Ho looked the best. That Gung Ho looked great. They also did announce, which was really cool, to continue their foray into the 3 3/4, since they did that Sky Striker, I almost said GoFundMe, but the HasLab Sky Striker. They're doing 3 3/4 that are Sunbows, which is wild because that's what Super 7 is doing. They're doing, and they're not O-ring. I'm sorry, O-ring 3 3/4. Super 7 is the plastic, stiff looking figures, and they look different, but they're still Sunbow based. So now they're doubling up on that Sunbow love, which I love, but it just seems curious. It's just weird. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's because they saw the love that the Sunbows, the Super Sevens were getting, and maybe that's why they're going that way. Either way, I think they look great though, and I'll be here for them. I'll be here for those 3 3/4 O-rings. I like those better than the like what they call them, the retro line from Walmart. I ended up getting a handful of those, and I don't know that I'm going to hold on to them, or at least hold on to them. Carded. I may open them and play with them a little bit. Again, I'm not a guy with a ton of space, so I tend to keep my stuff on cards and, like safe so that I can just box them up for a time when I have a little more office space to display. But that's my style. Your style may vary. And speaking of styling may vary, if you guys are into podcasts about movies and your style is such that you love listening to movie podcasts and randomly a G.I. Joe podcast like mine, then I think you're going to love the Movies in a Meal podcast.
Listeners, I know what you need in your life. You need more podcasts. And you also love movies. So why not do a podcast that's about not one movie? It's about not 2 movies. It's about 3 movies and a meal. I'm talking the Movies and a Meal podcast. This show is great. It's brought to you by Keith, Brad, and Ben. And each week they bring a new movie to the table, which they all discuss as a group. And it's not, your highfalutin movies. It's What We Do in the Shadows, The Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Out of Sight. It's Bad Education, Ghost Rider, and A View to a Kill. It's X-Men Last Stand, Queen Sugar, The Mandalorian, and Major League 2. They are a lot of fun to listen to. You guys know Ben. It's our friend Ben Pensarga. He was a guest on Joe and Joe. In fact, Ben was the very first remote guest that I ever had on this podcast, so he's always got a special place in my heart. I'm really digging this. I just started listening to it last week. It is a lot of fun. They bring a guest in. The guest, I listened to their Heathers episode. They were joined by Kelly, and she went in depth on her favorite movie, which was Heathers, and it made me want to go watch Heathers to watch with them. I really dig it. So guys, find them out there at Movies and a Meal, Twitter, Instagram. Their website is moviesandameal.podbean.com. They put out 1 episode a week. Give them a listen, guys. Support them. Let them know Joe on Joe sent you. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is quite entertaining. And now back to the show.
They are fantastic. They help keep the show afloat. They help keep the show running. You know who else keeps the show running? Our Patreons. If you guys hear this and you go to patreon.com/JoeandJoePod, you could sign up and help support the show. You also get access to every episode of Joe on Joe. That includes not only the Sunbow episodes that we did, which was everything, and the DIC stuff, and we did Extreme, but also every episode of Joe and Joe Illustrated, which is I've covered from issue 1 up. So go on over and check it out. Help support the show. I appreciate everyone that does already. I know it's weird. Most shows they do a call out of Patreons and they call people's names. And there's been a handful of times when I've mentioned it and I've had a couple of patrons ask not to be mentioned. So maybe I'll ask this. If you guys are Patreons and you're hearing this, let me know if you want to be mentioned. Maybe I should do a survey on the site because I'm happy to give shout outs to our Patreons because you guys are great. Our patrons, you guys are fantastic. And you absolutely keep the show afloat. Keep my heart afloat. I think that's it. The only other big G.I. Joe thing it's G.I. Joe tangential. But I was looking at board games because I'm waiting for the G.I. Joe RPG to come in. I don't know what we're going to do with that, but I did order it and I'm excited to look at it and probably just read it and never actually play it. But we might try to do something on the podcast with it. But that got me thinking about board games, and then that led me down a rabbit hole with cousin Mike, and I think he's a listener, but good cousin of mine, just really great best friend of mine, and he does a lot of board gaming. He turned me on to that Marvel Zombie side, and so the Kickstarter's live this week, and I went to look at it, and holy crap, is that too expensive? I love to support things, but wow, I can't spend that kind of money on a game that I'll probably end up playing twice. I can't do it. It's just, wow. Check it out, guys, if you're interested. I know they do good work, and the zombie side people, and I'm sure it's a really well-crafted game, but holy crap. I liked it. They got extra add-ons. We get the add-ons. It's something like $400 for all 3 versions, with the X-Men add-ons, and there was a Galactic. It's wild. So, but listen, everything's got a cost. So you know what? Maybe it's not. What would be great is if you guys got a group of people, a group of gamers that game all the time, everyone pool in, and then you get your 1 copy of that game. That's what sounds awesome. I don't have that kind of group. I certainly do have friends that play games, but we don't do it regularly enough to warrant that kind of purchase. But and it looks great, but oof. Having said that, though, got to tell you, they did some kind of G.I. Joe 3D board game like that, where there was like a Battle Force expansion pack, Battle Force 2000 expansion pack, Assault on Cobra Island expansion pack. I got to be honest, I'd probably throw that money down. So, here I am talking out of both sides of my mouth.
You were saying?
I was saying Stalker, and it's a good thing Stalker is a big player in today's episode. We are covering G.I. Joe 112. Let me announce what we're doing today. We're talking about G.I. Joe 112, guys, which is it's not the culmination of, but it's definitely one of the middle chapters of this big war in Benzine over the oil fields that have been taken over by Cobra. And we've already got some Joe casualties. It is a great issue. I really enjoyed this issue. It's been probably 35 years since I've read it. 31? No, 31 years. 31 years since I've probably read this. Man, it is a good issue. So, but our "You Were Saying" segment is where I look at other comic books that were on the shelf on the same month that the issue is that we're talking about today. So today's 112, and that was May of 1991. And so we're looking at Marvel comics that were on shelf with a cover date of May of 1991. Technically, this was January of 1991 by calendar dates. And Whammo, biggest title. Was it the biggest title this month? But it's definitely one of the biggest ones. It's one of the bigger ones from a collecting back issue perspective. Amazing Spider-Man 347. It's got Eric Larson drawing Venom with that big tongue. Is it the first time or maybe the second time the tongue's been? Maybe the first time on cover. And he's holding Spider-Man's head in a Shakespearean soliloquy, Alas, Poor Yorick. And this cover is great. It has skyrocketed up the charts just on the cover alone. It's also, Venom's 4th appearance or something like that. But this is a good book. If you have this in your collection, it's one that's been shooting up the sales charts. You could probably get $30-$40 for it, I think, if memory serves, maybe 25. But yeah, 347 is kind of a classic book. Daredevil and the Punisher with art by Lee Weeks, G.I. Joe favorite Lee Weeks. Daredevil 292. I want to say this is another two-parter, but this Lee Weeks run on Daredevil is really good. I've always enjoyed it. Always thought it was really, really, really solid and doesn't get the kind of love it deserves. Daredevil's just had a lot of great creators on it over the years. This one definitely counts. Fool Killer number 7. Marvel gets away with putting just a straight up bondage mask on their cover with a guy crying in pain. Look up the cover. Hey, adults, look up the cover of Fool Killer number 7 and let your imagination run wild. What else do we have here? Mark Spector Moon Knight 26. So this is the Mark Spector iteration of Moon Knight. And for all you collectors out there, basically all the Moon Knight books are going up in value because they announced that show. So if you've got any Moon Knights, if you've got any duplicates, I'm sure that first issue was I want to say it's like issue 2 of the miniseries, of the interim miniseries that came before this. I think the one that was called Fist of Khonshu, where it's got that it introduces this villain Harrow, and I guess Harrow, Harrow, is the villain in the TV show that what's his name, Ethan Hawke, I think, is playing. So I'm sure that book has shot up. I actually haven't looked it up recently, but it's funny because that's a book that's you find in dime bins, and I'm sure that book is heated up. But I know a lot of Mark Spector and just a lot of Moon Knight books in general have been shooting through the roof. So if you've got a big Moon Knight collection, or if you were like, I had like 5 random issues of Moon Knight, now would be a time to sell them, guys. Now would be a time to throw them up because there's, especially because you don't, the show's, just for a little collector tip, because the show is an unknown quantity, there's going to be people spending on stuff that they don't know in a speculation manner. So they don't know who's all in it or what storylines might be important. So the overall value of everything kind of inflates. Then the show comes out and you realize, okay, they used that Harrow guy. Maybe they used Bushwhacker, and maybe one other villain. So then kind of the other issues drop back down because now for sure those are the 3 villains they used, or concepts or whatever. And then the issues that feature those characters that now those then go up a little higher than they were before. So this is that time to go, well, I can get rid of a lot of dogs for more than they normally would be worth. But you may be selling some key books that might pop once the show pops. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. So know that going in. So, maybe hold on to the stuff that is like first appearance of this character, first appearance of that character. But, get rid of your dogs, get rid of your issue 13s and issue 26s. I don't even know what happens in this. Get rid of those, clear the deck of those. But you know what I'm saying? So just some comic collector tips for you comic fans out there, comic readers, comic fans. What else do we got here? Handbook of the Marvel Universe. The binder edition is up to issue number 6. I need to start digging into my handbook omnibus, that's for sure. Uncanny X-Men. This is a great cover. Oh, real quick, X Factor 66. I think this is the start of the Apocalypse. I think they call it the Apocalypse War. And it's where, basically it's where they reveal that Nathan ends up going to the future to become Cable. So this is the first time you learn that, we're talking Nathan is actually Cable. Oh, okay. He gets infected by the transmode virus. Apocalypse steals him to the future. And then fandom went, holy shit, that's Cable. Pardon my French. But Uncanny X-Men 276 is a great cover. It's Jim Lee cover, and it's got Wolverine standing over Xavier, and he stabbed him with his claws. And if memory serves, that Xavier was a clone or like a imposter, like maybe a Skrull imposter or something like that. But it doesn't take away from the power of this cover. It's really, really great. I know they're all in space, and they're all they're hanging out with the Shi'ar Empire and stuff. But this cover's awesome. Jim Lee really drew his butt off with this. It's a delightful, really good cover. So that's it for Marvel.
You were saying?
Now, we're going to go over to DC Comics. We're going to see what's on the slab here for DC Comics. Oh, Adventures of Superman number 478. Superman fights against Dev M from the Legion of Superheroes. Dev M was a cousin, I think, to Mon-El. He was a Daxamite who would show up randomly, and this was an updated version. This was post-crisis Dev M. Very minor character, but they gave him a really cool update that really fit in well with the aesthetics of the 5-year gap. So they're fighting on the cover. I really dig that. Which makes me think of, I finally caught up on my Action Comics for the last few months, where Superman is off in space with the new Authority, the new version of the Authority, and they're fighting to take down Warworld. And I like it. I like it a lot. I don't care for any of the characters on the Authority, but that's kind of okay because they're killing a few of them. Now, Superman claims to, he's going to save everybody by the end too. But I think that the characterization of Superman is great. And pardon me for blanking on who the writer is right now. But I really like what they're doing. And they're really getting Superman into the roots of like, no, this is a problem. And we're going to go, Warworld's a problem. And we're going to rescue these people who want help. And they're doing a lot of political subterfuge with the newly formed United Planets. I will say this, and I know this stems out of the Bendis Legion reboot, which I read the first issue of the Legion Justice League crossover, and it was okay. I love Legion, but it was all right. But I don't like the new designs on the Durlans. I don't like it. They don't feel Durlan-y to me. They don't feel like that design is honoring, old school Reap Daggle Chameleon Boy Durlan, like, yellow and antennas. Like they've gone pink and kind of aqua, like fishy looking, like lizard looking, which I don't know, may feel more organic to like a shapeshifter, but I like Durlans looking like Durlans. Like there's something about that it's not an upgrade. That just seems like a lateral, if not a minus move. Like give me that same, if you guys are reading it, you may not agree, but you'll know what I'm talking about. I feel like you could do the same look and still keep the Durlan look. Give them the antenna and do the yellow/orange color tone. And I think you still got a great poppin' looking Durlan. But I don't know. That's just me. This is G.I. Joe talk, not Legion talk. But you guys know me. I get sidetracked on comic books. I read a lot of comic books, so I've got a lot of thoughts on comic books. And one place a week, I can get those thoughts out. Speaking of thoughts, you guys, if you want to also help support the show, you can actually go to my eBay store. It's JOJ Comics and More. That's a mouthful, but it's ebay.com/store/ JOJ Comics and More. Go to my eBay store and check it out. I got a ton of comic books, tons of great sets and cool stuff. Occasionally some G.I. Joe stuff. To be honest, I don't always have a ton of G.I. Joe stuff because I buy G.I. Joe stuff for me. But I got a ton of really great comic books up there. Some auctions, some buy it nows. Pop me a note. Let me know you're make me an offer on some stuff. Let me know you're a Joe and Joe listener / fan, whatever. And, I'll cut you deals. I want to move stuff. I don't want to sit on it. The other stuff that's happened in Legion, it's all Legion talk this week in DC is, this summer is the, Armageddon 2001, and the first issue dropped this week. So Armageddon 2001 dropped, and #1, and then there is there one annual or two? There was one annual. There was just one annual that was this week as well, and it's the Superman annual. If you don't know what Armageddon 2001 is, it is they created a guy called Wave Rider, who you may know who he is by now. They named the ship after him on that show DC Legends of Tomorrow. Wave Rider comes from the future, and it was created by Dan Jurgens, and he's got a pretty cool look, and he's got kind of a fiery cosmic head and yellow body, and he says, I'm in my future there is a big bad guy. I forget what his name was, but there was there's a tyrant. There's just the guy is just the worst guy in the world. And, sorry, see, now it's bugging me that I can't remember his name. Monarch. That's it. Yeah. So in my future, Monarch exists, and he was one of you guys. And I don't know who. No one has ever been able to figure out who he was, but Monarch was a bad dude, or he's a good guy, and now he's a bad dude. And he is the worst in the world. So I came back with my power to look at people's future timelines. So the gimmick of the crossover is such that he goes through every summer annual, he touches the superhero and he reads their future. So when you get books like Superman, Superman had 4 books at the time. So there's 4 possible futures that he reads. One where he's president, one when he's, in this case, I forget what this one was. Was this, it was his son that took over? I don't know. Batman had 4 different futures. Wonder Woman had 1. The Hawks had a future. Basically literally every book that had an annual that summer got this Armageddon Flash, Armageddon 2001 future. Justice League did, and it was great, and it was really, really great. Some really cool artwork, some nice, fun, basically Elseworld stories or what if stories, and he went cover to cover, and it was supposed to be a big guessing game. So trying to keep it a secret as to who it was. Now, as the annuals got smaller and smaller, the window of identification shrunk. So when there was only 3 annuals left, everyone guessed that it was going to be Captain Atom. And then DC heard about it, or as it got closer, the story goes that DC heard that it leaked out that Captain Atom was going to be Monarch. So they changed it at the last minute, and they made Hawk from Hawk and Dove Monarch, which doesn't make any sense because Monarch displayed Captain Atom-like powers. And so it kind of ruined the storytelling of it, but it also kept us on our toes that summer because everyone was like, oh, it's got to be Captain Atom, right? And then it comes out and we're like, Hawk? Oh, okay. They would go on to later rectify that in a series of convoluted miniseries sequels to Armageddon 2001. But the concept is really great, and the stories are really, really great. If they did an omnibus of this, I have a feeling it would have to be 2 omnibuy because these were all annuals. They weren't just like one single story. They were all annuals, so all the stories were like 48 pages. So now instead of just, you're dealing with a lot. That's a lot of stories to cram into one book, even like a 1,000-page book, but I don't know, maybe they could. I would love to see a 2001 annual. I think that would be great. I think it would sell real well. Anyway, but Armageddon 2001 came out this week. It's great. If you've never read it, give it a flip through, especially if you're a fan of like DC continuity and history and stuff.
You were saying?
All right. We're chugging along here. And now we look at movies that were in the theater. And this is January of 1991. Ski School. Awesome. This is a classic in the like stupid high school, ski / beach / King of the Mountain kind of movies. Ski School is absolutely up there at the top. Stuff like Better Off Dead. Ski School's great. It's got Dean Cameron in it. It's awesome. It's so funny. I'm reading these other names. I don't know any of these names yet. I've seen Ski School a million times. I just don't know any of their names. Ski School's really funny. I had a buddy in college, Swiss, who just swore by this movie. We must have watched it 100 times. Also, a movie starring Sally Field called Not Without My Daughter, which to this day, I don't understand how that movie wasn't like an ABC after school movie. On January 18th, we get some serious films, man. You get a Disney adaptation of White Fang. Is it Disney? Yeah, Disney's White Fang. You get Men of Respect. It's an adaptation of Macbeth. You get Flight of the Intruder, which is I believe Vietnam era. Cadence, which is like a military school thing. So there's a lot of serious stuff going on January 18th. And then that's it. It's kind of garbage for us. Too Much Sun, directed by Robert Downey Sr., starring his son. I don't remember this, but whoa, that looks terrible. And of course, on the 26th, an HBO showcase movie, Prison Stories, Women on the Inside. There you go. That's it.
You were saying? Now, mass is ready.
Yeah, it's a rough month for movies. Anyway, G.I. Joe 112, great cover. It's a great cover, and it's imitated on the inside, or this imitates the inside panel, either way. And it's interesting because they're done by different artists. So I wonder which came first, the chicken or the egg on this. But it's fabulous. It's a fabulous cover. You've got someone who we know it's Cool Breeze. He's sitting over a radio, but you sort of can't tell from. I guess you could. You can see his glasses, the backwards hat. You don't see the robotic arms that they gave him, but yeah, it's Cool Breeze, and he's crouched in front of a helicopter, or in front of a radio, while a helicopter with a spotlight looms overhead in a very menacing position. It's done by the fabulous Lee Weeks, and it's got some text on the front. It says, in this issue, we've got ninja fighting. The war continues, and the body count rises. Ellipses, ellipses, ellipses. That is wild. We also are celebrating, and I don't remember if it was on last month. Let me do a double check. Yeah, it was. I missed it. 50 years. It's probably been like the last 5 months worth. I missed it. 50 years of Captain America, 1941 and 1991. They use the black and white rendition of a John Byrne Captain America, but that's in the barcode area instead of Spidey heads. We're getting this great John Byrne Captain America. So happy 50th birthday, Captain America. So last year would have been 80 years. All right.
Yo, Joe!
But let me be clear. I like the symmetry of that cover. I think it's great. I think it actually is hurt a little bit. They shifted over to make room for the verbiage and the cover, like the indicia stuff, which totally necessary. I get it. So if you lop off the indicia and the side stuff, you got a really nice symmetrical picture. But you can't do that because you need all that to sell the book. So you got to shift everything over a little bit. So who's the hero? Script by Larry Hama, pencils John Staitma, Randy Emberlin inks, Rick Parker letters, Bob Sharon colors, Bobby Chase editor, Tom DeFalco editor in chief. I think Staitma's pencils are really great in this issue. I think he does a real nice job. There's a little bit of image creeping in here. I'm starting to see it. In some of the poses, some of the inking. We'll see it. I'll call it out a little bit as we move along, but it's that style. I mean, so that. Yeah, we'll talk about it when we get there. We also, on the interior, we got a commercial. We got an ad for Operation C. It's the NES Contra for Game Boy. Did anyone play this? Operation C? They fight in the Phlegm Forest and the Cave of Crud. I want to know what happens in the Phlegm Forest. But on the roof of the Emir's palace in Benzine, if you remember, we left a cliffhanger, Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes looking down through a skylight, and they see the Saw Viper, who had previously, he was bragging about killing all the Joes, and those two wanted to smoke him. And Scarlet is like, stop it. Both of you, stop it. And Storm Shadow's trying to talk Snake Eyes out of it. I will say this. John Stamos got the note that Jinx is a girl, because now she's actually drawn with feminine proportions in this issue. And I'm not saying that as like a slam on the way he drew Jinx. I don't know that he knew Jinx was a female in last issue. I really don't. Just based on some of the way the body was drawn, it felt like it was saved in the inking in a couple images and just not even addressed in some of the other images. This first one, you could tell it's a female. Although Jinx still has nothing to say. She's still superfluous to this whole mission. I don't think she says anything in this whole issue. I think you could really just, I wonder if, it makes me wonder if, oh, no, here we go. She screams Night Creepers. That's about it. Anyway, I wonder if that's an addition, if somehow someone said, hey, why don't you just throw Jinx in there anyway, since you're doing the ninjas, even though Larry had a story written out or something. I'm curious about that because she doesn't really do much. Anyway, that's where we're at.
Yo, Joe!
And downstairs, directly below in this bar nightclub area, it's the Saw Viper, and he's bragging to this lady, whoever this is. She's not a Viper. She's kind of a dancer, I guess a Cobra dancer. And he's, talking about how he killed all the Joes, and they set up some bottles on the bar, and he mows them down. He talks about how 3 of them tried to shield their buddies. It was pathetic. I could have busted my size laughing and blah, blah, blah. He's just being a real a-hole. And we see through the skylight, we see the silhouettes of the ninjas, and it's Scarlet talking Snake Eyes down, saying, like, I get it. He deserves to die. But this is doing a little bit of the narrative lifting in case this is your first issue. We're not here for payback. We're here as advanced recon. If we don't spot all the vital targets and strong points, the Joes who come in after us will get nailed. And if you pop caps in that Saw Viper, the Cobras will know a recon mission has compromised them. They'll just move everything, and all the intelligence we collected goes down to the tubes. And she's reaching out to him with a like a soft hand on his shoulder, calming him down.
Yo, Joe!
Now we see through the recon team. It's actually a sneak peek, and he's looking through his giant toy green sneak peek thing, which was always awesome. I never really understood when I was a kid that was just I guess a giant binocular. There's a name for it, monocular or whatever it is. I always thought it was some kind of weird laser, and I was like, why wouldn't you put a laser on it though? As long as he's looking, if he sees something, like shoot a quick little laser out of it. Anyway, so sneak peek is watching the ninjas. And he says they're moving again, so that means Scarlet's entreaties worked. The team is on the move. They're continuing to mark and note all the important places, and he's doing some explaining here for the reader as well. It's a relief if they had popped a can of firefight. The recon team would have to draw fire to their ninjas. This whole little battle, everything here. It's really a nice game of chess, I would say. Larry does a really good job of setting up a series of dominoes. That's what it is. There's dominoes here, and they could fall one way or the other, and they're all counting on a couple of the dominoes to make a choice one way or the other, and everyone has to react to it. And the Joes have done in this issue. The Joes do a wonderful job of balancing all the characters. All the players know their roles, and he shows them as completely competent in doing that. And there's a lot of time that's spent explaining it here, and that's what we're saying. Sneak Peek explains that to us, and now we get our friend Cool Breeze, the character find of 1991. He's like, and ain't no action we can't handle, Sneak Peek. His verbiage, he's very much he's the youth. Cool Breeze speaks to me, in such a dialect lingo, and I know what Larry's going for. He's going for like that, like an inner city slang lingo. The thing that rings false about it, and not just that, Cool Breeze is created to, again, be the character fan of 1991, is that by the time you get to the G.I. Joe team, I feel like so much of this would be beaten out of you. Like you don't get to the Joes until you're the top of your class at whatever it is you do. And I don't know what the Cool Breeze does. We just met him last issue, so I don't even know his specialty. He's a recon guy or whatever he is. But like you know what I mean? You get a lot of that. Lingo beaten out of you. And frankly, it's one of the reasons why I think a lot of the Joes talk similarly. They use similar verbiage because they've all at a certain point gone through the same kinds of training. Granted, he's new to the Joe team, but he's not new to the military. You don't get to the Joe team until you're an accomplished vet in your field. So that's the one thing about Cool Breeze that rubs me a little bit the wrong way. I don't care that he's silly or crazy. It's just he doesn't seem competent. Now he seems brave, and we'll see later and stuff, and he seems, like he's got his heart in the right place. But that's not the same as competency. So that's having a sacrificial lamb like this, spoiler alert, just rubs me wrong a little bit. Anyway, Stalker basically says, don't be too anxious to throw down. And we learn, Sneak Peek tells us there's a whole bunch of night creepers that are following the Ninja Force. And Cool Breeze gives us the fabulous, turn down that worry knob, homie. Those G.I. Joe ninjas are the baddest dudes on the team. Snake Eyes be all upside their heads with them bad swords, and Storm Shadow just has to look at some fool sideways and they drop dead. No, he's not wrong. Just saying. So he's arguing, basically saying, chill out, man. Like, I trust our guys to do it. And it's like, yeah, a little hubrisy. So the whole team has to tell him, like, chill out, dude. Like, and then he gives Stalker. No, it's not Stalker. I'm sorry. He is Recoil. He tells Recoil to lighten up. No need to comp a tood on me. Cool Breeze.
Yo, Joe!
Which is where Stalker steps in. And he says, no one's in the mood for comedy, Cool Breeze. Flint and Lady J and the armor team missed their last 2 radio check-ins. If the armor team isn't in place to cover us, then we have to draw fire from the ninjas. And so this is part of that domino chess game that we're talking about. There's an armor team, there's the recon team, there's the ninja team. If this team doesn't do it, then the other team's going to have to do something else to counterbalance it. And it doesn't work out well this issue, but it plays out really well. And that's a wonderful segue to check in on the armor team, which, remember, they were kidnapped by that Faoud guy. I think his name's Faoud. And Faoud, who we talked about was kind of a seemed like he might be like a Bin Laden type, like a local resistance, but then they just want power for themselves. And they're still kidnapping the Joes. They've got guns to their heads and stuff. They're riding in the Joe vehicles. And Flint is trying to talk him out of this. He's like, you guys, you want to liberate the benzene people. And Faoud says, yeah, but only stupid people actually want democracy. It's too difficult and requires personal sacrifice. What people really want is a strong leader. Where does that sound? Boy, that doesn't sound familiar at all, does it, America? Jesus, you paint this guy orange. And he says, that's what I, Faoud, am going to provide them with, me. I shall use your armored vehicles to destroy the ammo dumps, blah, 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 and the people are going to elevate me. So yeah, I'd like to get a reprint of this book with Faoud painted orange.
Yo, Joe!
So now Lady J is kind of on the sly, informing Flint that the ninja team's still doing what they're doing. So if they blow up the oil fields, the ninja team's going to get blown up real good. Faoud overhears her whispering, and Flint covers for her. And we learned that they have resistance fighters already in place to mark these sites with flares. So the resistance fighters are also moving in where the ninja team is to mark targets for Faoud's assault.
Yo, Joe!
And we can't go any further. We got a great ad here for the G.I. Joe NES game with the Cobra Commander, live action Cobra Commander cosplay ad where someone's in a real looking hooded Cobra Commander looks fantastic. It says, you're not the only one waiting for G.I. Joe. So is that blue-blooded Hellraiser Cobra Commander, but you can help squash this terrorist and his boys with the new G.I. Joe video game for Nintendo. Your mission: lead Snake Eyes, Blizzard, Duke, Captain Gridiron, and Rock and Roll in a do-or-die combat against Cobra Commander and Cobra forces. Choose your character, your weapons, and start blasting your way through Antarctica, Sahara, jungle, and worst of all, sewers of New York. Get to level 6, get Cobra Commander, and it's mission accomplished. Of course, your first mission is to get the new G.I. Joe video game from Taxon. Who had this game? I certainly had it. I still have it. I love it. I actually like the Atlantis one better. I thought the Atlantis Factor tweaked a few ways the game plays on it, a few ways that the game plays, and I thought it was an overall better experience. But I have both of them. They're both great. Sadly, games like this, because they're licensed properties, they're never really included in those best of, like NES emulators. And obviously, you can get it with a illegitimate, bootleg emulator, of course. But when you buy those, the NES plug-and-play stuff off the shelf at Target, they rarely, if ever, include these like smaller licensed titles like G.I. Joe. So I think the only way outside of, bootlegging it, which, hey, we've all bootlegged in our past, I think it's actually get this and pop it in an old school NES and play it. But it's worth it. It's a lot of fun. So we now check in on that introduction, conceptually the introduction of these freedom fighters being in the mix. Now the story takes us to that. So again, Larry's doing a wonderful job of talking about an idea, introducing a concept, and then the next the next page or the next panel or whatever carries us to that concept. So there's no confusion. If they had cut back to, in this instance, let's say they cut back to the ninjas, or they cut back to the sneak peek guys, or even to the Saw Viper or something like that, you would lose the narrative, lose the flow. But the next panel here is a picture of those freedom fighters. And we see in the background the Joe Ninjas learn about those freedom fighters. So you've now combined the two concepts, and you've mentally put them in. You've started to build the understanding of spatial relationships of where they are. So the freedom fighters definitely don't see the ninjas, but the ninjas now see the freedom fighters. So now we know that they're converging together, and we know that the Night Creepers are rolling up on the ninjas, even though neither of them know each other or are there yet. And then where else do we go? Do they meet the Night Creepers yet? I don't think they haven't met the Night Creepers yet. So, Storm Shadow sees what they're doing. They realize that they're marking the sites, but they're also marking the sites where the Cobras have had the prisoners strung up. Remember, they had prisoners strung up on like ASP turrets and things like that to stop G.I. Joe from shooting at them. Well, the freedom fighters or rebels or whatever they don't care about that. So the rebels are marking those bad sites, which is not good. And now Sneak Peek sees through his binoculars that while the ninjas have stopped, the Night Creepers are still moving. So they're going to run over them. They're going to blow their cover. And this is where Cool Breeze comes up, and he starts he starts stepping out of bounds here a little bit. And he starts basically telling Stalker, if the operation is blown anyway, we should break radio silence and warn the ninjas.
Yo, Joe!
And this is where Stalker just plays his hand, and it's great. He says, keep your mouth shut, rookie. It's not up to the new guy to determine whether the mission is blown or not. And he says, there's no reason to, not get on the horn and let those new guys know or let our guys know they're about to be jumped. And Stalker says, hey man, the Night Creepers have radios. They all carry, state-of-the-art comm gear. As soon as we break radio, they're going to know where we're at. And Cool Breeze counters with, what about that jammer that Recoil's been carrying? If we jam the transmissions, then the Night Creepers would never know. So then Stalker realizes he has a point. But Stalker looks down the road and he sees the consequences of it. Cool Breeze does not see the consequences of what they're about to do, but Stalker knows it. And so does Recoil, because he says, Stalker, you know what this means. And Stalker says, you heard me, start jamming. So Stalker, as always, has to make the tough calls, man.
Yo, Joe!
So now, interestingly enough, Jinx... So they were going to jam the transmission. because when the Night Creepers saw them, the Night Creepers would radio in. So now they knew they were going to run into them. And Jinx, his first dialogue in 2 issues, screams Night Creepers. And they start taking on the ninjas. The Night Creepers cannot get a radio communique off. And the Joe ninjas are onto it. So they're after them. And bladed weapons only. And the Night Creepers say, fight or die. If you fight well, you just might live. Yo, Joe! Spoiler alert, they fight well, and they still do not live. These ninjas go ham. Snake Eyes, by the way, and Snake Eyes not the only one that's killing people here, by the way. They're all killing someone. So let's not be, I don't mean to be, Snake Eyes centric, but Storm Shadow certainly kills that person. Assuming, the idea is they can't radio, so that means they're dead. But Snake Eyes, we got to add one to his kill count because he's the only one we're counting kills with. So 1 for the Snake Eyes kill count, everybody. We are up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 46. 46 confirmed on-screen kills. So now the fight's already over. It's really quick. But this is where Stalker shows his expertise and his wisdom. Cool Breeze is all happy about, man, I had a good idea after all, huh? You should write me up for a medal, man. And he says, you don't get it, Cool Breeze. And Cool Breeze is like, what are you talking about? Yo, Joe! That jamming isn't going to go unnoticed. The Cobra Televipers are going to want to know why there was a commo interruption. And the ninja's mission is still blown unless the Televipers are given another believable reason for that jamming. So what, and Recoil says, what Stalker's trying to explain to you is, so he's Stalker-splaining, which, I hate, is that the only way the mission won't be compromised is for us to show ourselves and take the heat for the jamming. And that's right. They now have to become the target. So thanks a lot, Cool Breeze. Hey, Cool Breeze. Thanks a lot. Now these guys, their mission is scrubbed because they have to make a scene and cause the Cobra to follow them. And this is where Ambush pipes up with, he says, Stalker, aren't you being a little hard on the new guy? And Stalker says, he thinks this is some big joke. Well, I'm not laughing. I'm not being hard enough, Ambush. Bum, bum, bum. Yo, Joe! At the Amir's Palace. So we've got a Televiper explaining to, is it one of the, yeah, it's the twins. Oh, earlier, by the way, I forgot to mention, the twins were smoking. You don't see a lot of smoking in G.I. Joe, especially in 1991. The twins were sitting at a card table smoking earlier. I forgot to mention that. But they're like, all right, well, thanks, Televiper, you're dismissed. So what does that mean? If there's a G.I. Joe infiltration team, like what? And Saw Viper overhears this and says, let me at him. Set them up in a row. I'll mow them down like ducks. This page is where I'm seeing a little bit of, we'll call it image creep. Look at the calves on whether it's Tomax or Zaymon or whoever it is, and the hatching and just the general stylizing of the legs on this. This is that trademark image creep, we'll call it. Not a big fan, but it was 1991 and it was everywhere, guys. So get used to it. Yo, Joe! At the ammo dump now, the ninjas finished wiping out the Night Creepers, are now taking on those rebels. They're not killing the rebels though, because they may not exactly know who they are. Oh yeah, he says that. He literally says, we don't know who these people are yet. And he's like, got a knife to the guy's throat. He says, you're the leader. What's going on? This place is, you can't strike this place. There's hostages. And that guy says, we don't care. Like, its cause is more important than a few hostages. And Jinx, second line of dialogue, says there's a helicopter with a searchlight approaching. And so they're going to be trapped. So Storm Shadow, with one hand, knocks out the bad guy. And with the other hand, he yells to the team, quick, throw your weapons off the roof, all of them. That part seems weird to me. I don't know why they had to throw their own weapons off the roof. Maybe it's in case these guys wake up, they don't have any weapons. We'll see. It'll play out what they do later, but I don't really get the whole throw your weapons off the roof part, other than something to end this page with, like an action beat to end a page, which is always good. It's always good to end a page and, switch scenes on an action beat, like a moment of thing, but I don't really know what that accomplishes. Yo, Joe! Checking up on the recon team. These guys are double timing it away from where they were to do another jamming to basically to jam stuff again to get Cobras searching for them, but now in another area because they're a little safer from where they were, closer to a getaway thing. But before they could do that, they heard some diesel, they hear some tracked armament, and it's the Joe's own armored team, which is not supposed to be where they're at. They're supposed to be miles away.
Yo, Joe!
Now, overhead in the helicopter, the helicopter sees, there go your infiltrators, and it's the Saw Viper in the helicopter. And he says, look at them, they aren't even armed. Because the weapons are all thrown on the ground, the bodies are laying there. He says, pilot, set us down on that roof. I think we should, and the pilot says, we should just hover over them, shoot them from the air. And he says, and Saw Viper smartly says, no, if we do that, we'll shoot off, we'll blow ourselves up because it's the ammo dump. But as they're doing that, as they're going to set down, that's when Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes jump into this helicopter and doing some karate kicks and et cetera and so on and so forth. But the bodies, this is where my confusion comes in, because the bodies that those guys saw laying on the roof, was it that the Joes laid next to them? I think that might be it. So the Joes so they knocked out the rebels. So you have the rebel bodies laying there, and maybe the Joes laid next to them. And when it got close enough, they then jumped up and got them. If so, I don't know why you couldn't still just have your ammos. I mean, you were pretending to be dead. I don't get it. And then you're also taking a huge risk doing this because you're waiting for, you think, they're going to get close enough for you to jump in there, versus what I thought they were going to do when I was reading this. What I thought was happening was they were going to pretend, leave the guys out, leave their bodies out, laying out unconscious, the bad guys, the rebels. And then the ninjas hide somewhere, behind a water tower or something, which maybe they did, but it's not done well. So that this whole little bit of the shell game, so to speak, that we're playing with this issue, it lost something in this translation, and it loses something a couple pages down the road too.
Yo, Joe!
So now Faoud, who has the Joes hostage in the armored column, he pulls up. And they say, this is as close as you're going to get. As soon as you get notice from your recon team, we can start shelling the oil fields and blow it all up. And sure enough, there's some it's wump wump. Some explosions happen. So those are. So I have a feeling there was more included in that recon team. The ninjas only took out a small group of them. So Faoud orders Lady J, or he orders Flint to tell his troops to fire on those markers, or he'll shoot Lady J. And Flint's a little bit behind the eight ball. He's kind of I got no choice. And before he can make the call,
Yo, Joe!
Stalker shows up. He says, "Don't give that order anymore." And he takes Faoud in a kind of a headlock, and he pulls him out. And Faoud's gun arm, let's put it this way, his gun arm is still pointing at Flint. there's I get it, it's comics, so you're showing a brief moment of action, but I feel like the animation on that should have been more focused on Stalker's arm grabbing the arm with the gun that was pointed at Flint's temple, or actually Lady J's temple, rather. Either way, it works. Stalker pulls Faoud aside. The rest of the recon team gets the rest of Faoud's guys. They stab him or beat him or whatever they got to do. And Stalker's holding him hostage. We see Stalker takes that pistol and he puts it in his in Stalker's own pistol belt. What do you call that? Holster. And they explain what's going on with the ninja team. And Roadblock says, "Hey guys, we don't need to announce anything. We got a Cobra helicopter coming our way." So now the Cobra helicopter found the armored team.
Yo, Joe!
And the helicopter is whooping overhead, putting a spotlight right on their old rally point. So this is where they made that second jamming thing. And this is where Cool Breeze, he throws his dog tags to Stalker so that he can't be identified if or when he gets killed. And he grabs the jammer, and he's going to, in his words, I got you in this mess. It's up to me to get you out. I'll draw them away from you. Get moving. Which is crazy, because they're already looking in the wrong place. And Stalker says, "Cool breeze."
Yo, Joe!
Now, this is when we get a little action shot of Cool Breeze, character sensation of 1991. He has, doesn't have metallic arms, but he's got like metallic banded arm sleeves, which is wild. He's got a checkerboard corner. He's carrying a saber for some reason. He's got a backwards hat. He's got goggles on top of his forehead. He's got a microphone head. Like, Cool Breeze has everything. Cool Breeze is Image come to life. So it does not make me lament what's happening in the next page. But he feels bad, and you do feel for the guy. He feels bad because this is kind of all on him. And he says, "I wish I was feeling a lot more brave than I thought." And Ambush says, "We better get going or the kid's sacrifice will be in vain." And Ambush gives Stalker some BS, which is BS, my Frank. He says, "What's the matter, Stalker? Don't you think the kid is funny?" Dude, you're giving grief to... By the way, they give... Stalker is the most should be the most emotionally damaged G.I. Joe of all time. Between all the stuff with Snake Eyes, leaving him behind in multiple... when he was in Vietnam, and then when he left him behind in Cerro Gordo, etc. Anyway, so this is where we get the cover image. And it's very similar to cover. So I wonder which came first, the chicken or the egg. But it's Cool Breeze turning the jammer on, and that searchlight found him in a minute. And he realizes he's about to die.
Yo, Joe!
Except no, it's Snake Eyes and Scarlet and Jinx. Those aren't Cobra, it's a ninja team. And then she says, "Hey, it's Cool Breeze, the new guy." Now, I noticed this for the first time. We do see, I think that is supposed to be, in the very corner of that panel, it's the Saw Viper, and he's bound up. And that's it. That was the thing I was going to mention earlier, where that part of the story kind of gets dropped off a little bit. So they went to attack. You got the Saw Viper in your sights, guys. This is the guy you wanted to murder. Why he gets, I am assuming, trussed up, because I think he does come back, instead of just gutted and left hanging from the skis of the helicopter, I have absolutely no idea. So that's a weird shift of priorities, because earlier Scarlet was not saying you shouldn't kill that guy because it's not kind. She was saying it would just blow the mission. You're now in the midst of blowing the mission. You should kill that guy. Anyway, we see that you thought we were Cobras and we're just luring you in. We see that So this is crazy. So the front of the helicopter. So we're seeing that inside the helicopter, they've murdered all these Cobra troops. Murdered, which is awesome and grisly. But those guys are dead. Is that the Saw Viper that's dead too? Did they see this is I think that's supposed to be the dead Saw Viper in that image, in that middle image. But here's the problem. Sorry, this is just where it gets like, you've set this guy up as a bad guy. And if you're really going to go out, so I genuinely, because I don't remember next issue, I thought he lived. If that is the end of the Saw Viper, guys, like if we don't get more Saw Viper after this, I kind of don't feel like that's, like you've set him up to be a bad dude. And because I can't tell in this middle panel, I can't tell if that's supposed to be a Saw Viper or not. But there's definitely some dead Vipers. Like one dude's like looks choked out, which is great. But anyway, Cool Breeze is excited. So we'll find out more next issue if Saw Viper really is dead.
Yo, Joe!
So the Joes blow up and they burn up the helicopter. Okay, so Saw Viper's got to be dead, right? So you're telling me they set the Saw Viper? Okay, so they throw a grenade in to blow up that helicopter. All those bodies are on it, whether they're knocked out or dead. They kill the Saw Viper, but it's not really anyway. Okay, that falls apart a little bit. Sorry. So anywho, as they catch up with the armored column, this is where I think Larry's doing Stalker dirty. That General Food he finds that his gun is in Stalker's belt, and he's slipping it out of Stalker's belt as Stalker is helping Cool Breeze back onto the ship. And, Stalker's giving kudos to Cool Breeze, and, Cool Breeze is like, hey, that's all right, blah, blah, blah. And the helicopter explodes, and as Cool Breeze is talking to Stalker, he sees that Fode has his pistol back, and he starts pointing his pistol at Stalker.
Yo, Joe!
And Cool Breeze, in a heroic moment, takes the bullet right in the chest, meant for Stalker. Stalker yells, Fode's got a gun, and Snake Eyes just using... Is that the Saw Viper's gun? I think it is. Yeah, that's the Saw Viper's gun. So Snake Eyes, using the Saw Viper's gun, cuts Fode down, point blank. Fode's dead. They throw him out of the tank. And Cool Breeze is going to be a goner. He says, I can't see you. I'm hurting. I ain't crying, am I, Stalker? And he says, take it easy, Cool Breeze. No, kid, you ain't crying.
Yo, Joe!
So as they get back to the Joe headquarters, they're about to do an empty boot ceremony for their fallen Joes: Breaker, Quick Kick, Heavy Metal, Thunder, Crankcase, Crazy Legs, and Doc. And now they say they've got an 8th killed in action. Cool Breeze bought it, died on the way back in. He was a real Joe, sir. He did his job. They have his dog tags. They hand those to Hawk. And they say here, we got us some payback too, Hawk, for what it's worth. And Snake Eyes throws down Saw Viper's his gun. So that definitely that's the end of the Saw Viper. Next issue, previous agreements and multiple deaths, even more. Yeah, I don't. This is a really good issue. Don't get me wrong. And it's a bit of a poetic way. I like the way that they come back with his weapon, and that's the symbol that they killed him. But I feel like we want it, but I guess you know what though? So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking there's a personal grudge involved with your heroes. Let's throw Snake Eyes. Say Snake Eyes. With Snake Eyes personally murdering an individual that you know as a character. In this case, Saw Viper. So there's a character. He's become a bad guy for the last 4 issues. He is a known commodity. He's not a random Viper. He's not just someone that's attacking them. He is the Saw Viper. And to show him cutting him down and murdering him, maybe Hasbro balked at that. To have it be done on panel or even remotely on panel, because it's real abstract here, guys. So that part is a little rough. But overall, I like this. Out of 10, this is like a 9.5. This is a really great issue. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, it stumbles a little bit in those areas that we were talking about. But generally, I like it. So we've got some postbox from the pits. We've got Rob Young from Rockford, Illinois. Got Stefan Roth. He's from Chilta. There's someone in my life who would murder me if I mispronounce that. Chilta, Norway. Wendy, last name and address withheld by request, so I can only assume that's Wendy from Burger Wendy. Natalie Connett from Indianapolis, Illinois. And Jennifer and Philip Lowry from Willow Creek, California. Throwing out some good questions this month in Postbox from the Pit. Anyway, that's it for all, guys. I appreciate you all. Thanks for joining me again for another week of Joe on Joe. And now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.